What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again. So, Bungie's most recent live stream was quite possibly one of their worst showings ever. And I do mean ever. But I'm not gonna blame the content on display. Oh, don't get me wrong, it was an utter shit show. As Gamespot put it, Mercury, as a destination, is actually a rather small circular area on the planet called Fields of Glass, which is connected to the lighthouse that Bungie showed off last week. The most noticeable thing about the new map is the assortment of powerful, high-value target enemies one can fight. There seems to be more of them in the Fields of Glass than at other locations in Destiny 2. Other than that, it's an unremarkable donut map, and we couldn't even summon the sparrows there, seemingly to mask how small the area is. Or this little gem from IGN.
I wish I could give you a better impression, but because our explorable space was so small and only had one new public event and one lost sector, which I hadn't found, I was left feeling like Mercury was light on activities.
Oh, that it is, my friend Destin. That it is. For you see, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, I am the Joker from the future. Let's not talk about how the Vex time gates work. Let's just know that I am here from the future. And I am here to tell you, this stream, like this DLC, is a case of we have just enough content to somehow justify its existence, but not enough content to shock, surprise, and or wow or dazzle you. If you're starting to see a pattern here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, you are not alone. This live stream perfectly encapsulates everything that is wrong with Destiny 2. Destiny is a franchise, and Bungie currently as a development studio. There's a huge difference between intent and execution. And nowhere is that better displayed than here. What is probably the crowning moment of the stream, a moment that will largely set the tone for the next stream and the Curse of Osiris as a whole. A snafu so bad that it could only be unscripted and live. And wait, this wasn't live. It actually could have been avoided.
I promised before that this was the most rewarding public event, and there we have it. We have two chests. I promised before that this was the most rewarding public event, and there we have it. We have two chests. I promised before that this was the most rewarding public event, and there we have it. We have two chests.
Oh my god, you couldn't be that bad if you fucking tried. At this point, the token system is the unwitting scapegoat for people who have issues with Destiny 2, and the incentives provided for players to do anything. It's called out because on the surface, it feels like it takes away player agency and choice, and does so in a way that is not only insulting, but ill thought out. The tokens are often conflated with legendary marks from Destiny 1, when, well, they're more like reputation, shared across multiple characters. But let's be honest, what's the key difference between shacks in, say, Destiny 1 and shacks in, I don't know, Destiny 2? These engrams aren't the same thing as a purchasable inventory. These are rewards that you cash your Chuck E. Cheese tokens in for because you played the various games to earn them. The problem here comes from the inability to use this to buy this, like you could in Destiny 1. But even then, we're only starting to scratch the surface of an issue. In Destiny 1, you had the vendor inventory that changed with every major release. But You could also level up reputation and get randomly rolled versions of those weapons. Sometimes the vendor rolls were the best option, and sometimes you had to grind for what you wanted because the stats were just, delicious, but the roll was utter shit. In Destiny 2, it's not so much that I can't buy the things from vendors that I want. I mean, really, what does any given vendor have that I actually want? Better Devils? This rocket launcher? This shotgun? That's kinda it. No, the issue with these vendors and these systems that Bungie has designed the game around make it significantly easier to get everything you want within a few days of the release of that content if you, I don't know, give it the good old college try. The only problem is, like with Destiny 1, on a very basic level, there's only a handful of things worth having, outside of the want to collect them all. So in Destiny 2, they have taken any chance that any of these weird weapons might actually be good and just kind of thrown that all out the window because, yeah, it might have okay stats, but its perks suck. Why would I use it? Recovery is the best stat in the game, for example, hands down. But I like the Crucible Warlock armor. Without random rolls, this armor will only ever be agility armor, which means, although I might like it, using it puts me at a noticeable disadvantage. Take a look at the raid weapons. There's only one that really gets any traction, the rocket launcher. But, I mean, look at this scout rifle. It's basically Destiny 2's version of Visions of Confluence on paper. But it sounds absolutely abysmal to use. And Dragonfly is a very, very, very poor imitation of Firefly. And scout rifles, with the general exception of 1 or 2 explosive round scout rifles, just do insignificant damage for what they are. Why would I ever use a high-end scout rifle like this when I could use Mida Multi-Tool and do mathematically more sustainable damage quicker? Point being, rewards like this just aren't worth getting because the game is balanced in a weird way that makes weapons that should feel powerful actually just useless. So, you go to the vendor of your choosing. You turn in whatever tokens you need to get whatever you want, and then you have no further use for them. This is likely why buying was replaced with packages, because if there is a 1 in 20 shot that you'll get what you want, you'll keep grinding until you get that Better Devil's hand cannon. But if you could just go out and buy the Better Devil's hand cannon, you'll grind until you've gotten enough for whatever reward you want or need, and then boom, you're done. But it's not like this change did anything whatsoever to postpone the inevitable. That's why when I hear the excuse, the reason why we don't have random rolls or crazy diverse subclasses, because, it's just easier to balance, I call bullshit. I call fucking bullshit. That might have been the intent, but the execution is the single thing killing the game. And in the time that Destiny 2 has been released, there has not been one balance patch to solve some of the problem children like Last Hope, the Uriel's Gift class of auto rifles, or pulse grenades. Likely because regardless of how easy it is to balance those things, they have no idea of how to actually balance them. Because it doesn't matter how theoretically easy it is to balance something, if you don't know how to balance it, if nobody agrees on how to balance it, if there's no other way to address the issue in any satisfactory way other than nerfing the thing into the ground, then what is the fucking point? But once again, execution versus intent. No one cares if you have a good intent. If you want to create a minimalistic game so that it's easier to balance and you don't balance it, then nobody cares. Nobody cares if what you make by comparison to its predecessor, is reductive and lifeless. And that's what we see with this reveal. A lot of great ideas, really, really poorly executed. The biggest, most rewarding public event ever? Not really. Just shoot some Vex and dunk some balls while going from one side of a small disk to another. Where on the contrary, the Fallen Ether event on Nessus, with its chaos and insanity, which results in a bunch of supers being used and a bunch of enemies dying and a bunch of loot flying everywhere, and just this awesome gameplay moment, is one of the biggest and funnest events in the game. Sure, it takes place in a small space, but the play space is not what makes something bigger or better, it's the quality of it. And at the end of the day, this new biggest, baddest, awesomest public event that they've ever created is just a glorified shoot the big guy who's not quite on the same level as a strike boss. The fact that the event drops 2 chests was an attempt to show players that they have more chances at loot, making it more rewarding. But what ultimately happens, and what will ultimately happen almost every time you open these things, is 2 tokens and a blue. And that's provided you don't get hit with the chest lockout. Then there's the Infinite Forest, or as I like to call it, the biggest waste of potential I've ever seen in Destiny. This is more like the Infinite Bridge, not an Infinite Forest. It spawns a walkway that has different configurations and different enemies, but at the end of the day, it's nothing more than a glorified walkway. So at the end of the day, does it really matter that it has different ways it can construct itself? If all it's doing is going from point A to point B? Hey, you know what they could have used the simulator for other than making bridges? The ideas follow as listed. A Crucible Forge map editor, custom games, and crazy custom game modes. Horde. You literally gave yourself an in-game lore excuse. Not that that matters given the track record, but hey, you know what? You had something. And somehow, in some way, in the most mind-numbingly uncreative decision that I have ever seen come out of this fucking studio, you chose not to use it. And that has to be a choice, because I fucking refuse, absolutely, positively refuse to believe that somebody didn't raise their hand at a meeting and ask, hey, you know what? Could we implement, like, custom games, or a Forge mode, or a Horde mode? I mean, we have this randomly generated simulator thing idea that we could just give the community to make their own content with. I refuse to believe that somebody didn't say that. In all likelihood, they did, and they were probably promptly fired for having the only good idea come out of Bungie in fucking years. Moving right along, Brother Vance and Brother Vance's weapons. And the Forge. It all seems like an interesting way to return to reforging in Destiny. But say it with me, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, in the most mind-numbingly uncreative decision that I have ever seen come out of this studio, they have chosen not to do it. And it has to be a choice, because I fucking refuse to believe that somebody didn't raise their hand during a meeting and say, we have this quasi-weapon crafting system, and we're calling it Forge. That will instantly bring back memories of when people could reforge weapons during House of Wolves, and since they are Vex weapons, it would only make sense to let you re-fucking-roll the fucking weapon perks. And then they asked if they could look into implementing these features, at which point they were promptly fired for having a good idea. Because, as we all know, that can't happen. And as you will no doubt already know, the entire purpose of the Vex is to simulate different possibilities. The select weapons with select perk pools would have been a great way to introduce reforging and a grind to get exactly what you want, while simultaneously leaving an easy way for people to cultivate these base weapons, and still leave the air fucking quote integrity of the static weapons system for virtually everyone else. And it would make receiving 2 tokens from the most air fucking quote rewarding public event in the history of Destiny less painfully hilarious if it wasn't so fucking sad. if, I don't know, I could spend 100 of those tokens to reforge my fucking weapons that exist in a Vex paradox of improbability through time and space, where they literally exist in a quantum of infinite possibilities that allow for the reforging of weapons with randomly rolled perks until I got what I wanted. But hey, fuck the lore, fuck the Vex, fuck time travel, fuck causality, fuck Osiris, and most importantly, fuck you, the player. And why the actual fuck do none of these weapons have does more damage to Vex as an intrinsic perk? What could have been a really interesting idea is in fact nothing more than what seems to be a 4-week-long resource grind that I hit X a couple of times at the end of and get weapons that may or may not be worth it. Of course, anyone with a fucking brain knows how this will play out. You'll have your collectors, and they'll want to get everything, because that's what they do. And then you'll have everybody else, i.e., most of the people playing the game. The people who go, okay, that's all cool, but which weapons are the best in slot? I.e., the only ones people care about. And how long am I going to have to wait to jump through these artificially inflated resource grinds to get what I want? I never in my wildest dreams imagined that this DLC would save Destiny 2. There needs to be huge, sweeping changes to virtually every facet of the game. Everything from the Crucible and how we interact with the playlist, to which playlist we choose, to how things are incentivized, because this, for all the hoops you have to jump through, in the biggest public event in the history of Destiny, is not worth the time. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the energy. When I can just go do this. Ooh, token. Ooh, token. Ooh, token. And that, right there, is Destiny 2's issue. Destiny 2 isn't a game where you just go and play the content, because you're always trying to get something new. You're always trying to progress, trying to move a number up and down. Destiny 2 doesn't understand that. So when people are like, I've got everything I wanted and, well, that was kind of unsatisfying, people leave in droves. The Curse of Osiris doesn't look like it's going to fix this issue on a base content level. So let's hope that the live team can. Let's hope that, once again, the live team, who desperately needs to be promoted to the development team, if half the stuff I'm hearing coming out of Bungie is true, a video for another day, can save this fucking game once again. But, like always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.